I'm Tamara Holder, and this is Sports Court. So another NFL player was arrested, and guess what? For domestic violence. And of course, he's already had a past arrest record of domestic violence. But the Chicago Bears decided to give him another chance and hire him for this season. But he was cut immediately after being arrested on Memorial Day. And joining me now is the co-founder of the National Fantasy Football League Convention, Mark Hulme. Mark, welcome.
Well, thank you so much.
Mark, you work with NFL players. You are preparing for a convention to have around 100 NFL players present. How do you feel about this, about working with NFL players, some of whom have been arrested for violent crimes, whether or not they're convicted?
Well, I would like to think that our lineup, since we're able to actually be very selective in the ones that we invite, actually somewhat above reproach. So it's not really impacting the convention because, we're not actually out there with the responsibility to have to build a winning, franchise. And so we don't have that temptation to do what possibly the Chicago Bears management found themselves in.
And in my intro, I forgot to say it was Ray McDonald who is the one who was arrested on
Yes.
Memorial Day. Interestingly, the owners, George McCaskey, who was he's on the NFL's new personal conduct committee. He's the one who decided to speak to Mr. McDonald's mother and ask her about her son's character. And that was apparently the deciding factor. As an employer, do you think it is important to talk to somebody's mother in deciding whether or not they should be part of your NFL team?
No, actually, I've never done that in the past, though I am sympathetic to the Bears management in this one regard, and that is it sounds like Ray, who was aggressively pursuing this position, actually maybe interviewed very well and more sincere than he actually was. I think that happens all day long out there in the marketplace. That sometimes
right, but
a particular.
Go ahead. Let me just say, I understand the idea of interviewing well and being very convincing. And not only that, look at Jameis Winston. He interviewed well personally with Roger Goodell. And the numbers also speak for themselves. You have the best quarterback in Jameis Winston, and you have a wonderful player in Ray McDonald. But what about character? Does that matter anymore at all?
Absolutely. So what happened was they fell to that temptation, and I think we all do it one time or another when we're looking at a real talent, and that Ray's definitely that. And also at $1 million for the years, it was a good buy. And so you can't help but think, well, would it be different here with this organization? Has he turned it around at a place where we can really benefit as an organization? And you don't look at those short tenures, the job firings of a typical applicant. You say it's going to be different here. And actually experience says it is never any different. So they took their eyes off that logic, got caught up, in that moment in the dream that maybe things have changed. And then the Chicago Bears would certainly have benefited from that.
Okay, so switching gears a little, not to be so controversial in this question, a lot of my friends who are fantasy football freaks just look at the numbers. And we've had conversations before about whether or not benching someone on a fantasy football team is important if they've been, say, suspended, like Tom Brady for 4 games, or Adrian Peterson or Ray Rice. The list goes on and on and on. How does that affect fantasy football?
Well, in the same way it impacts reality. So if you put a lot of your eggs in those baskets and then they don't end up playing, then your numbers are hurt. So from that standpoint, there's a lot of alignment with fantasy and realism.
Well, thank you very much. We will see how much these people's conduct affects their other people's fantasy football teams. It will be interesting this season.
It absolutely
and I appreciate your appearance today. Thank you so much. Sports Court is adjourned.